All right, so today we're talking about MongoDB. Can anyone tell me what is the difference between this kind of database and the kinds that you guys have been working with previously? So previously we've been working with some kind of SQL type of database, MySQL. What's the difference here now that we're working with Mongo?
Mongo is not only SQL.
Right, so it is considered a NoSQL database. And the main thing to take away from that is that relationships are not going to be represented in the same way. So rather than having these joins that we're doing across different tables, we could potentially nest documents in our structure. Okay? There's some different terms as well. So the term database is still used, same as we were using in SQL. However, rather than tables, we're going to have these things called collections. And then rather than a record in each table, we'll have something called a document. And a document is basically just going to be a collection of key value pairs. It's going to look a lot like JSON. All right? It's just going to be it's going to look like one big object. Okay. So the first thing we want to talk about just briefly is installing this. Have most of you been able to get it installed? No? You have? Not according to the platform? Okay. So did you try to do it with Homebrew?
Yes, but
Okay.
like you have to tap it first.
Right. Yeah, so if you guys haven't yet installed or if you're having some trouble installing, double check on Mattermost. I linked a spot where it gives you the command to actually tap that command that you need to run before you actually do the installation itself. Okay, but then after you did that, were you able to get it installed? Okay.
You have to just follow that link that you said.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to do that and then just follow that thing down.
Right.
That's the way I got it.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to get the platform updated on that. But basically what's going to happen is that, let me exit out of here real quick. So if you do a brew services list, if you're on a Mac, you can see all the different services that you have running, and I'm running right now MongoDB-community. That's the one that you want to run once you've tapped it and installed it. Okay. So what's nice about this is that we don't have to constantly, start up Mongo every time we're doing a new project or something like this. It'll be running in the background as a service, so we always have access to it. Okay. So to get into Mongo itself, if I want to run a shell, I can just do Mongo like that, and it will open up a shell for me. If I want to see all the databases that I have, I can run a couple different things. I can say show databases, or I can say show DBs for short. So that's kind of nice. So we just have a couple or a few databases that are in there by default: admin, config, and local. Now, it's kind of a free form the way that we interact with Mongo, in that I don't have to explicitly create a new database. I can actually just start using it right out the gate. So like, let's say I wanted to create an intro project. I could just say use, and this is, what database do I want to use? I can just say use intro. And I've already switched to DB intro. Kind of weird, right? Because it wasn't even in the list. But I can use it without even being there. All right? And then if I change that, so if I go use some other DB, and then I go show DBs, did my intro DB even show up? It's not even there, right? So the reason why it's not there is because I didn't actually insert into any of the collections that also weren't there. So as long as I haven't done anything to it, I haven't inserted any documents, then it's empty, and Mongo is basically pretending like it's not there at all. Okay? Because essentially it's not. It's not really there until we actually put some data into it. So let's do something like that. Let's switch back to intro. So say use intro, And then if I want to clear my terminal inside a Mongo shell, you can just type in CLS. Okay. Don't type in clear because that won't work. See, it's an uncaught exception there. All right. So let's just insert some data. This is sort of the very first thing we want to try. Let's just say db, and this is how we do it. We say db dot, and then the name of the collection, and then I'm going to do the insert method. So we'll call our collection users. Let's say insert question, yes?
Which DB are we in right now?
We're in intro.
Didn't you switch them?
Yeah, and then I switched back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, so let's just insert some users. Let's do you, Jamie. First name, Jamie. And your last name is
Yeah.
like this. Oh, it's M? Okay, yeah, okay, I got it. All right, cool. So let's insert you. All right. Right result inserted one, so that's cool. So now what I can do if I want to see all of my users is I can just say db.users. So again, that's the name of the collection. And then we'll just do the find method. Okay. It's all in one line like that. If I want it to be a little bit nicer to look at, I can also add a .pretty call at the end. So I can do the same thing and then just tack on pretty. Okay, then it stacks it up. Yeah, that's pretty beautiful, huh? Quite nice. All right, so it'll come more in handy as we add more users. So right now it's not really doing a lot for us, but let's do something here. Okay, so let's insert a new user. This time I want to insert Marina. Okay, Marina. Now I'm going to try to get your last name. Don't spell it. You ruined it for me. Is it like this? Avetizian?
Yeah,
You got it? Okay, cool. Excellent. All right, so insert that, and then let's look at them again. So again, the pretty is going to help us if we have a list like the or an array, because now they're stacked nicely, and I'm just seeing each key value pair. Right? Okay. Now, what if I wanted to add Deanna, and I want to add a different field than was in these two previous documents? Would MongoDB have any issue with that? Not at all, right? So I can just say db.users.insert, and then first name, Deanna. You got it? Okay. Yes.
I'm gonna pronounce it.
Hune, right?
When
Hune.
I know it's weird.
All right, I failed. Darn it. Okay, so I want to add your email address, and we'll just say d@h.com. Cool. So no issue at all. So that's kind of one of the things about a NoSQL database like this is that we don't have any trouble having each one of the documents having a different sort of structure than the next one. Okay? So that's completely different than what we've seen with SQL, because in SQL, every document is going to have, or every record is going to have the exact same set of fields as the next one. But here we could be very loosey-goosey about it and have a completely different set of fields for one user than we do another. So that's kind of a double-edged sword. It's nice in the sense that we have the ultimate flexibility and we can sort of put whatever we want inside these documents. But what's not so nice about that?
It's not standardized?
It's not standardized. Yeah, exactly. So if I'm dealing with this data somewhere, and I'm sure that I will be, how do I know what kind of document I'm going to get if I'm looking up a user? I don't, right? I mean, this user could maybe have an email address. The user might not have an email address. So that's kind of not so great. later on, tomorrow specifically, when we introduce Mongoose, that's going to help us give more structure to this so that things aren't all over the place. So that we kind of know, okay, if I'm pulling a user record, I'm getting these specific fields. I'm getting a first name, last name, and an email, those types of things. So that I know ahead of time and I'm not stuck scratching my head. All right, so again, now that we've inserted another one, we'll do pretty here, and you can see we have an email address for her, none for the others. All right. What if I want to find a specific record, or let's say I want to find by some specific field? So we have this other method here, find, that we've been using, but when we provide it no arguments, it's going to just return everything in that collection. But if instead we want to filter in some way, then we can actually add an object as an argument and then just provide what is it that we're looking for. Okay, so if I want to do db.users.find, I could say where first name equals Marina, name Marina. Oops, I forgot to add pretty to it. That makes it a little better. So we get that record that we're interested in, or that document that we're interested in. Okay? Yes?
So you were looking for first name, but it showed the last name also. Is there a way you can just specifically show just first name only? Or does it bring up the whole like,
It's going to give you the entire document.
Okay.
But of course, if you're only interested in specific fields, you can then grab those as you need. So if we did, let's see, db.users.find.pretty, could we just get her last name? I don't even know if this would work. No. Okay, but in JavaScript, you guys are going to be able to get that specific field value, so that won't be an issue. All right, so that's one thing that we can do to find a specific user. We could also use, we should be able to use object ID on that as well. Let's see, how do we go? DB. Let's check the docs real quick. So in the Mongo docs, I believe this is linked on the spreadsheet for you guys. So you can check out the Mongo docs and see what types of operations can I run. So if I want to do a comparison here, let's see what we can do. So find, oh, that's not even there. Does anyone see our, so inside documents, wow.
What kind of comparison?
Well, I was just looking for if I want to search by ID and I'm just using the regular find method.
You're just putting
I think you just put the field, yeah. And I think you put a colon, but you don't put anything inside.
Okay, yeah, because I couldn't remember if we're going to include object ID outside of it. No, we're not. Okay, let's try it that way then. So if I wanted to search by Marina's ID, let's just do db.users.find underscore ID, and then the string of her ID. I do need the object ID, right? Okay.
Oh, in Mongoose you don't.
Oh, I see. Object ID. Go like that. Okay, that gets it. Okay. So make sure if you were trying to search by ID here that you do it that way. Note too that as we continue on and we write our applications with Mongo, again, we're not going to be using the Mongo shell so much, but you may want to have a shell open so that you can check your data if something's not the way you expected. Yes.
So I have 5 marinas. How do I wear clothing last name? Or filter?
Yeah, you could do that. You could add that as well. So we could say db.users.find. So if I got first name, Marina. Last name.
For multiple group,
Yeah, exactly. So I can just add the last name if I'm also trying to restrict that. Okay. Yes.
For the object ID, you know how in SQL databases they're automatically
It's
set to
numeric.
1.
Yeah, auto incremented.
Will this always be a random generated string?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it'll be-
In general, you're not going to want to fuss with that because it'll give you a nice unique ID for it. If I wanted to create another ID field on my documents, I could theoretically do that. So, like if I wanted to go db.users.insert, and then let's just enter some new ID. So I'll say the ID is 2. No problems there either. So again, if I go db.users.find.pretty, so now I just have this document where I've got the Mongo generated object ID, but I also have a secondary ID that I've added to it. So Mongo won't have any problems with that. Just don't do the underscore ID because you want to use their object ID. Okay. So that's finding and inserting. The other things that you guys are probably going to want to do is we want to update and then delete. Right. So that would be the full, all the CRUD operations. We can create, we can read, we can update, and we can delete. So let's work on updating. So if I want to change Deanna, let's say db.users, and then we'll say update 1. Okay, and then the first argument that I'm going to provide this will be what is the filter that I want to use here. Okay, her ID, is that what you said? Let's just do by first name because we know we only have one Deanna. Okay. And then the second argument is actually going to be how are we altering this document. And this is going to look a little strange, at least initially. We're going to use this set operator. And then inside there is what do I want to change. So maybe I want to set her email to something else. Say email is now Deanna@h.com. And then again, I need to close that out because the set also had its own set of curly braces. Okay, so we have acknowledged was true, and then the matched count was 1, and then it modified 1. Okay, if I tried to run this again, I should get a modified count of what? 0, because it's not making any changes at that point, right? Okay, exactly as we expected. Yes?
It says match count 1. Given that you search by the first name, theoretically there could be multiple Deannas. If you ran that same line of code, would all the Deannas be modified?
Well, no, because I'm using the update 1 method.
Okay.
So it might say that you matched more than 1, but it should still only be a modified count of 1.
And that would usually be the first in that search.
Right.
Got it.
Correct. Yes.
And then I think in the platform they just had update and then they had us do the comment true at the end. So update 1 is like equivalent.
Oh, right. So adding the true would mean that we were only updating the first. Is that right? Okay. Yeah. So we could do the same thing if we change this. And let me alter this again. D. So if I go back to the beginning. So we'll take out the 1. We'll just do the update method. And then we'll add a third argument of true, right? Okay. So we matched 1. We upserted 0. So an upsert is like an update / insert. And then we modified that 1. So again, if I go db.users.find pretty, there we go. So d@h.com. So those would be the different ways that you can run an update. You can either do the update method by itself, or you can update one if you're specifically only trying to update one document. Cool. All right, so the other thing that we want to talk about is how to delete a document. So let's say I want to delete this document here that just has an ID of 2. I could again grab its object ID like this. And let's say db.users.delete. And then I want to pass in an underscore ID of this.
You need the 1.
Delete, oh yeah, delete 1. Whoops. Okay, so let me change that real quick. Delete 1. Okay, deleted count equals 1. So again, if I check everything out, that user is now gone. All right. Any questions about that? Deleting documents? Okay, fair enough. So when we're doing our projects, as I mentioned before, we may also have a Mongo terminal open, a Mongo shell open, and that's totally optional, depending on if you guys want to. Because if you end up having some trouble with your data or something's not matching what you expect it to match, you can open up another terminal just to go drill into that particular database and say, hey, why is this not giving me back what I expected? And then also in our projects, we're going to have, so you might have that terminal open, and we will definitely have our Express terminal open like we've been doing. And then later on, we'll also have an Angular terminal open too, because Angular is going to be rebuilding as we make changes to it as well. We showed all those specific commands. As I said, using pretty at the end is very nice, at least as far as your eyes go. Inserting. We talked about the pros and cons of free-form structure. Anyway, this right here, the benefits of using Mongoose should be pretty obvious to you guys. This is basically like we're coming out of a SQL world, but we also still want to have some structure so everything's not all over the place. So once we bring Mongoose into the equation, everything will make a little bit more sense because we can apply some structure and it won't just be like whatever record I get could have all sorts of different fields. If you guys want to explore the Mongo documentation, as I mentioned, it's linked there in the spreadsheet. And then, there's all sorts of stuff in here from getting started, the different methods that you can run. So inside documents, this is just the structure of documents. Dot notation, so we use dot notation. That should look very familiar to you guys since you've been working in JavaScript. What else are you going to do? Oh, the concept of nested documents too is something that you're going to come across in the platform as well. So let's say that I had a bunch of, I had an array that I was storing something in. So maybe for each one of my users, I'm going to give them a favorite colors array or something like that, right? Let's see if we could actually do that. So if I say db.users update 1, and then I want to update Deanna again because she's the last one on my list. So we'll say where the object ID, whoops, I need to actually do underscore ID here. ID. Okay, and then what I want to do is I want to actually add to her set of favorite colors, right? So let's do an operator add to set, and then we'll say favorite colors, and then let's just add red. You like red?
Sure.
Sure. Now you do?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. All right, let's try that. Knowledge true modified count. So let's see what she looks like. So if I go db.users.find first name Deanna. Okay, so now we have an actual array here of favorite colors. And this is kind of what I was talking about with the nested documents, is that I could potentially have an array of nested documents inside one specific document. And that's how we could add another item to the set, is using that add to set operator.
And you said that more or less replicates the function of a join, right?
Yeah, it's obviously not the same because it could lead to some data duplication. So if I had, let's say I had the same sort of data in here that I did in some other collection, whereas in SQL we would only have it in one place, right? We might have a table that mapped favorite colors to
in general.
users, something like that. Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty much it for Mongo. You guys have any other follow-up questions before I dismiss you?
Is there any way to sanitize that object ID? To say, in case we wanted to show a table of our data, and we wanted to show the ID, that is, I don't know.
You can set your own ID.
Yeah,
What you
If
did
don't want it
earlier.
to- yeah, if you want it to be like 1 through
you could do that.
plus.
But then it's hard to keep track of the uniqueness, right? If you want to do an ID.
That sort of thing, yeah. But I mean, really, for most users, or most user-facing stuff, does the user really even care about the ID? Are you going to want to show it to them necessarily? I mean, yeah, it might be part of the URL because you want to route to that specific document, but is that even going to mean anything to a user? It's not.
What if
It's your
they want
customer
to know?
ID, it definitely does.
Well, like
It depends if it's the table ID or if it's your customer ID, because there are use cases
true.
for IDs that you
Okay.
actually want.
But-
Would it make more sense to use
Okay.
a SQL database when it's more along the lines of those kinds of data fields?
More relational.
What? Sorry.
More relational. Is
Yeah,
that kind of what you mean?
like customer database.
I think so. Yeah, if you have a project that is very relational in nature, it would make more sense to use a relational database. Now this gives us very fast document retrieval, but again, things like we lose the ability to join, and then we have potential data duplication in there if we're doing nested documents. So the other thing I kind of forgot to mention is that how are these collections stored in MongoDB? MongoDB uses this thing called BSON. So it's not JSON, but it's binary object notation. And I think there's some more information on that in here somewhere. BSON. So it's a binary serialization format used to store documents and make remote procedure calls in MongoDB. And then there's a link here to the BSON spec on that. So circling back to the object ID, yes, I agree that in certain cases it is important, like if it's a bank account number or something like that. However, if it's just like a user-facing thing where they're just seeing their shirts or something like that, do they really even care what the shirt ID is? Not really. I mean, they just care about the properties of the shirt, right? Maybe it has a logo on it, a color, or something like that. That's what they're interested in. So, I mean, whether that number looks ugly or not, I don't think it's definitely not going to be critical for you here with your projects. But as Josh mentioned, you can find ways of altering that if you like. And I think they recommend that you not somewhere in here. But if we were to look up altering MongoDB ID, you could probably find some information about it. Whoops.
When you first underscore ID equals and then the number in there,
Right.
it won't even generate the crazy.
Yeah, but you'd probably want to have some kind of function that was doing it for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Something that was keeping track of how many.
Exactly, because otherwise you could easily potentially duplicate things.
But the thing is, when you restart your server, that track is stopped. Right? Say you have counter, but then when you restart it, it's gone.
Well, you could then do a quick poll of all the documents in that collection to find out what should the current count be, and then you can pick up from there. So, but again, it's not recommended anyway. It's not something that you guys are going to have to do necessarily. All right.
Are there any examples in industry of people storing transactional things? Like I'm talking like credit card. I wouldn't imagine so, but I mean, has anybody tried that doing like credit card transactions or something in a relational database? Or not
You mean
really?
in a
Not
NoSQL type
really.
database? I'm sure that there are.
I
Yeah.
think it'd be good. Curious if someone.
But again, it sounds like what you're talking about is something that would be a much better fit for a relational database. So if we had something like users, products, transactions, that kind of thing, then we can easily join those tables together when we want to see what is the entirety of a transaction.
Yeah, that's my thinking in theory too. I'm wondering if someone overcame that kind of theoretical constraint and said we can still accomplish this in a NoSQL database, and this is why.
Right.
Is there some like?
It would have to, yeah, it would just be something you'd have to look up. I don't have anything off the top of my head for that.
Is there some like good user case of using like NoSQL database?
Yeah, if you're really trying to just focus on fast document retrieval and you don't need to do a lot of joining, so if your information is not very relational in nature, then that would be a very good use case for Mongo. Because we can get those documents very quickly. We don't have to worry about joining tables. It makes things very simple. However, again, if it's a very relational type of project, then you want to go with the tool that fits the job, right?
This might be beating a dead horse, but for like a real world example of something that's not relational, that this would be a good use case for,
Mhm.
since so many of the things that we do use are relational based.
Yeah.
What would that look like?
Well, what if we wanted to store, say, what if we just had like a chat or something? Maybe even using sockets. We had a chat using sockets, and then we had a whole bunch of different messages, right? If I wanted to store those in a more persistent way, rather than just having sort of like an array of messages in my server code, maybe I could throw them into a MongoDB, right? And that way, every time someone came into my chat, they wouldn't have to just have sort of a blank set of messages. I could actually give them some historical stuff.
Got it.
Unstructured data. So if you have like, if you hit like Google Maps, or you got cell phone stuff, like anything that's really unstructured and just like long strings, this is really good for that. Because you don't have to define the columns. You can
Yeah.
just dump data essentially.
Yeah, that's where I was leaning towards, but I was trying to figure out what app would that look like, since even then, right, it might even seem like it's more of a function of an app rather than using Mongo for all of the app.
Sure. And that's kind of the direction that a lot of things are going into, is more of a microservice direction,
Got it.
where you've got little pieces of an app doing a specific thing.
Got it. Okay.
All right, guys. It's been awesome. I'll stop the video and post this guy.